Hello everyone and welcome back to another transfer update with me, David Lynch. To say there's plenty to talk about would be a little bit of an understatement. It's been an absolutely crazy 24 hours at Liverpool Football Club. So much to get into in this video. Now before we do that, I just want to start out by thanking everyone who subscribed to the channel so far. I was a little bit overwhelmed really by the kind comments and the reaction I received to the first video, so I'm even more determined now to make a success of this and hopefully keep bringing you insights on transfers, but also updates from Anfield and from Kirby as the season progresses. I'm really looking forward to growing the channel, and hopefully you all enjoy the videos that I keep bringing to you. Now, let's talk about the news, the huge news that's going on around Liverpool, and where else to start than the future of the Liverpool captain, Jordan Henderson, which is obviously up in the air at the moment. Now, to just give you an idea really what it's like as a journalist and how quickly stories move, I was hearing from the Saudi side of things earlier this week that there was no real confidence from Al-Ettifaq that they could get a deal for Jordan Henderson over the line. Not a real belief that he actually wanted to come, and obviously it would put his place in the Euros squad at jeopardy and all those things, and giving up the captaincy at Liverpool as well. So enough reasons to believe that he might want to stick around at least for another season or so. But things have really moved on quickly in this, and now we're in a position where Henderson's Liverpool future is up in doubt. As I record this video at the moment, we haven't quite had confirmation from Henderson's side that he wants to make the move to Saudi Arabia, but you do get the sense that there's real encouragement being given there to Al-Ettifaq, and that decision might be, a little bit more difficult than was initially made out, and that there's a real possibility of him moving to Saudi Arabia. I think things are really stepping up in terms of that, and you can see the reasons behind it from Henderson's point of view. Al-Ettifaq are throwing everything they can at trying to convince him to make the move, and the reports are there that his salary will be quadrupled if he was to make the move to the Saudi Pro League. So they're throwing everything into it, and obviously Steven Gerrard is there as well, which is another real sort of tempting reason for Henderson to maybe try out this move at this point of his career. Now, there's no real clarity at the moment. As I say, we haven't had confirmation of what Henderson's decision has been, and there also hasn't been a bid into Liverpool. Now, that's another key element of all this. Even if Henderson says he wants to go, which is possibly what we expect at the moment, there's still that negotiation has to take place between Al-Ettifaq and Liverpool. Now, it has been suggested from the Saudi side, and I've heard this myself, that they're keen to get a move over the line on a free transfer. Now, I think there's very little chance of that. I think Liverpool are using some of the fees that have been paid for other players who've gone from the Premier League to Saudi Arabia as a bit of a guide, and would expect way over 10 million, maybe up towards 20 million. I mean, you look at Kalidou Koulibaly's move from Chelsea to Saudi Arabia, that was for a fee, I believe, of around 17 to 18 million. So Henderson's around a similar age. He's still a full England international. He's the Liverpool captain, played an awful lot of games at Premier League, at Champions League level last season. He isn't finished by any means. So I think, and when you also factor in, obviously, that Al-Ettifaq are willing to pay him the amounts that they're willing to pay him, then that for me doesn't add up really to a free transfer. So Liverpool would expect to receive a hefty fee there, and we'll have to see how those negotiations play out. If indeed, as we expect, Jordan Henderson pushes for that move and says that he wants to move on from Liverpool. Now, away from that story, he's obviously not the only Liverpool midfielder that's been linked with a move in this crazy 24 hours. Now, Fabinho, the holding midfielder at Liverpool, has been linked with a move to Al Ittihad. Apparently, they are, according to a report from David Ornstein, preparing a bid in the region of 40 million for the Brazilian. Now, that has come slightly out of left field, I must be honest. You spoke to people at Liverpool early in the window. There was a real sense that Fabinho wasn't going to be one that would be moving on this summer. I don't think there was any expectation of a Saudi bid for him. And even though there was, obviously, he had a difficult season last season, and there were maybe some among the fan base who were sort of willing to push him out the door this summer, I don't think Liverpool thought about him in that way. I think there was a real belief that when he had a strong pre-season behind him, and the rest that he's been having this summer, there was a belief that he could get back to his best, and that, the Fabinho of last season wasn't the Fabinho we're going to see going forward. But obviously, if a big money bid comes in, like £40 million for a player who's age-wise is probably, you could make the argument that maybe his best days are behind him, then Liverpool have got a difficult decision to make, similar with Henderson really. They'll have to weigh up the pros and cons in terms of what they would have to do if they sold Fabinho in terms of incomings as well. Difficult decision to make on that one. I think that, again, it's a situation where you will need some indication from the player of what his intentions are. Does he want to go to Saudi Arabia at this point in his career, or does he want to stick around and play at the elite level of European football for a little longer? I think his intentions will be key to all of this, whether he actually wants to stay at Anfield or not. He's not one that Liverpool are going to kick out the door by any means. But again, as with Henderson, there's some key hours ahead here in terms of the decisions both players make. If they go to Jurgen Klopp and sit down and say that you want to go, he's not going to stand in the way as long as Liverpool get a reasonable fee that they can reinvest. And speaking about that reinvestment actually is possibly an interesting point. Now we know in terms of the holding midfielder, if Fabinho is to go, there's real interest in Southampton's Romeo Lavia. I really expect that to step up if Fabinho is to leave. Liverpool do need an out-and-out six in that midfield. They probably needed a younger out-and-out six, regardless of whether Fabinho left or not. But I think it would become a desperate need, and maybe Lavia just, the interest in that is really going to ramp up if Liverpool start to sell off these two players. But there's also a possibility of maybe further midfielders coming in. Do they go back and reignite their interest in Thuram at Nice? That is another thing to possibly think about, because they don't want to leave themselves short on numbers, because as you saw last season, when you have a lot of games, and although they're not in the Champions League, they are in the Europa League. And if they go deep in the domestic cups, then injuries start to build up and become a real problem. So Liverpool need to make sure they've got the correct depth. So they've got some really difficult decisions to make, really, in terms of what will happen in terms of if those two players were to leave. Liverpool, they've got to really consider what they do next in terms of not leaving themselves exposed and with a short squad. So, real pressure on the recruitment staff, I suppose, in terms of what they do now if those bids really firm up and Liverpool were to sanction departures. Some difficult decisions to make in terms of ingoings. Now, to talk about further outgoings, one that we know is definitely confirmed and isn't just speculation at the moment. I reported for This Is Anfield today that Sepp Vandenberg is going out on loan again. He's closing in on a move to Mainz, flown out to Germany today, I believe, to finalise that move. So he's another one who's going to be out the door. I think this is, from my point of view, really a sensible move for Vandenberg. Obviously, he went on loan to Schalke last season, but that loan spell was ruined by an ankle injury, a severe ankle injury that he sustained. So he didn't get to play as much football as he would have liked to, and so didn't get that important experience. I think there was a belief at Anfield, really, that if he'd gone out on that loan and made it a success, that he could maybe come back and contest to be the fourth or fifth choice centre-half this season, but he didn't get that experience that they hoped under his belt because of that injury. So I think this is a good idea, really, is to send him back to the Bundesliga, hope he can get that experience under his belt that he needs, and then come back to Anfield and maybe be a key player in the future. Because we've seen before, he was on loan at Preston for 2 seasons where he really impressed the fans there. I think they really liked him. He showed some flexibility as well, and ability to play at right back as well as centre half. So that's always helpful when you're in and around the first team pitches. So if you can get back to that sort of form and do it in a top flight league as well in Europe, then there'll be real, that will help to convince Jurgen Klopp that he's got a future at Liverpool. And it's also worth mentioning that he would be handy as well to have around the squad, because he qualifies as a homegrown player in the Premier League because he's been at Liverpool since such a young age. When they brought him from Holland, he would qualify as homegrown, and that is an important factor for Liverpool in terms of how they build the squad and put it together. That's something that's going to be a consideration, in fact, for this summer. Maybe even puts more pressure on it. In fact, if Jordan Henderson's to leave, they really do need to look at the numbers there, not just for this season, but the seasons going forward as well. So that's another key consideration. Now, just to finish off, I want to sort of look at something slightly away from transfers, and that's the other big news coming out of Liverpool today, which is that Darwin Núñez will wear the number 9 shirt from next season forward. It's a big honour to take on. Obviously, it's an iconic shirt number at Liverpool. It's an iconic shirt number at most clubs, but at Liverpool, with the players they've had in that shirt, it's a huge weight of responsibility on him. He succeeds Roberto Firmino, who was an absolute legend for the club, in taking on that shirt. And I think, as much as the player himself would have wanted that, it's a shirt he's worn before in his career. I think from Liverpool's perspective, you've got to look at it and think it's a real show of faith in Darwin Núñez. He had that kind of difficult first season at Anfield. I think, being shunted out to the left-hand side at times. He had niggling injuries. He had that suspension that he got early in his first season, and missed a lot of chances, which really got highlighted. But I think, there's real belief there that, well, look, he still scored quite a lot of goals in a team that was really struggling. and you know, the belief that was there when Liverpool signed him in the first place, I don't think that has wavered at all. So the hope is from Liverpool that he can take on this number 9 shirt. Hopefully it'll give him an even further, you know, confidence boost, and he can really take that forward into this new season and kick on, and we can see the Darwin Núñez that we saw in flashes last season. Let's hope we can see it consistently, because I think Liverpool do need that option up front as well. He's completely different to the other players around him. He offers something completely different in attack, and Liverpool are going to need all the forward options to be fit and firing next season if they are to achieve their aim. So he's a really important player, and as I say, you know, very important for him to take on that number 9 shirt and feel loved, and also hopefully he can use that in terms of a huge confidence boost to really show him his true self this season. So fingers crossed on that. So I think that really rounds it up in terms of everything to speak about at the moment. I could probably do another video in half an hour when all the news has changed. It's so fast moving at the moment. So I'm sure I'll be back soon enough to give you more updates on transfers. Before then, if you could like and subscribe, it's obviously hugely appreciated. Can't believe the support I've had on the channel so far. And as I say, I'm going to keep bringing these videos as frequently as possible, and hopefully plenty of exciting news to talk about. Not just outgoings, but let's hope to see things step up in terms of incomings as well in the next few weeks. And yeah, I'll see you soon.